You've been lied to, not by accident, not by ignorance, by an entire industry that makes money selling you the expensive version of survival and has every reason to keep you from knowing what actually works. Here's what they told you. When the dollar collapses, when the banks freeze, when the shelves go empty and the system stops functioning, gold will save you, silver will save you. The precious metals you've been stacking in a safe, the coins you've been buying from sponsored ads on every prepper channel you've ever watched, that's your insurance policy. Here's what actually happened in Venezuela when inflation hit 10 million% and the currency became toilet paper overnight. Fishermen on the coast were trading fish for epilepsy medication. Not gold, not silver, fish. Here's what happened in Bulgaria in 1997 when the lev collapsed and the banks froze. Rural villages ran their entire local economy on potatoes, not precious metals, potatoes. Here's what happened in Sarajevo during the siege, when a city of 300,000 people was cut off from the world for nearly 4 years. The items that kept people alive, the things people would trade absolutely anything to get their hands on, were cigarettes, antibiotics, and lighters. A 1-ounce gold coin couldn't buy you dinner. A single pack of cigarettes could buy you 10 days of flour. Every single time, every documented real-world collapse, without exception. The items that dominate Phase 1, the first 30 days, when the panic is raw and the desperation is biological, are not what the prepper industry has been selling you. They are cheap. They are perishable. They are sitting on a Walmart shelf right now for under $5. And most people will never stockpile them because they don't feel important enough, tactical enough, or cinematic enough to take seriously, until they're gone. In this video, I'm going to show you 11 items, plus a framework for understanding why each one works and when and for whom. Not a shopping list, a system, built on a principle I call the biological pain hierarchy, the documented, historically consistent pattern of what people trade for first when civilization stops working. By the end, you'll have a complete phase-structured barter kit you can build for under $300. And you'll understand exactly why the $500 tactical bag is the wrong answer to the right question. Let's start with a story, because the data makes sense, but the story makes it real. She didn't want much, just enough medicine to keep her daughter's seizures under control. But the pharmacist shook his head. Not because the medicine was gone, it was right there on the shelf. The problem was simpler and more brutal than that. The money in her hand was worthless. It wasn't old, it wasn't counterfeit. It was printed just days before, but Venezuela's bolivar had collapsed so fast that by the time she walked to the pharmacy, the bills couldn't buy a single pill. So she went back to the coast, back to her husband's fishing boat, and she traded 2 fish for 1 week of her daughter's epilepsy medication. That was 2019, not 1929, 2019. The currency didn't just lose value, it ceased to function. Fishermen were operating a full barter economy because pieces of paper with a government seal had become more useful as fuel than as money. They always feel impossible, right up until they don't. Argentinians didn't believe it in 2001, Bulgarians didn't believe it in 1997. The collapse doesn't announce itself, it doesn't ask for permission, and it doesn't care how prepared you thought you were. Now here's the question nobody wants to ask out loud. If the dollar stopped working tomorrow morning, what would you actually have to trade? Not what's in your safe, what's on your shelf right now that another desperate human being would trade something valuable to get. Before I give you the list, I need to give you the lens. Because without the lens, the list is just a list. Here is the lens. In a collapse, barter value doesn't follow economics. It follows biology. The desperation doesn't hit all at once. It moves in layers. When someone is at the edge of biological desperation, they will trade everything for the one thing that relieves their specific pain right now. That sequence looks like this: infection, pain, thirst, hunger, warmth, comfort, vice. I call this the biological pain hierarchy. Infection sits at the top because it is the fastest killer. Pain comes second because it is psychologically destabilizing. Thirst is third. Water infrastructure fails faster than food supply. Hunger is fourth. Warmth is fifth. Comfort and vice sit at the bottom, offering powerful social leverage in a sustained crisis. Whoever has the item that matches the highest level of desperation at any given moment has power. That's the framework. Now let's apply it. Look at the top of the hierarchy. Infection. It is the most invisible, democratic killer in any collapse scenario. It doesn't care how well armed you are or how many silver coins you have buried in your backyard. A cut on your hand that goes untreated can kill a healthy adult. By the end of week 1, pharmacy shelves are stripped. The item that disappears first, faster than pain relievers, is antibiotics. A full antibiotic kit in a phase 1 collapse environment becomes negotiating leverage for weeks of food. The exchange rate is set entirely by desperation, but antibiotics require a prescription, in theory. In practice, there's a legal pathway the prepper community has known about for years. Fish antibiotics. Fishmox is amoxicillin. Aquadoxy is doxycycline. These are available at pet supply stores and online without a prescription. I am not giving you medical advice. But the barter value of antibiotics is real and documented. A $50 investment in an over-the-counter supply of antibiotics gives you more phase 1 barter leverage than $500 in silver coins. Rotate your stock annually and you are holding pure currency. Not everyone has an infection on day 1. Everyone, however, will have a headache. This is where most preppers make a catastrophic blind spot mistake. While antibiotics get all the attention, the most statistically demanded medical item sits quietly on a bottom shelf at your local grocery store, priced at $4. Ibuprofen and acetaminophen. At any given moment in a community of 100 people, maybe 5 need antibiotics, but 20 need pain relief every single day. Headaches from stress, muscle pain from sudden physical labor, dental pain in a world without dentists, fever in children. In Poland's 1981 economic collapse, everyday consumables like wash powder and pain relief functioned as de facto currency. Ibuprofen is an anti-inflammatory. It handles pain and fever. Acetaminophen covers pain and fever through a different mechanism. Stockpiling both is not redundancy, it's coverage. You can buy 1,000 doses for under $15. The person across from you with a 6-year-old running a 103-degree fever is not thinking about the price per pill. They're thinking, do you have it or don't you? Moving down the hierarchy, we hit level 3, thirst. Most people think of a water crisis as something that happens in the developing world. Then Winter Storm Uri hit Texas in February 2021. Power failed, water pipes burst, treatment plants went offline. Over 17 million Texans were placed under boil water advisories. In Livingston, Texas, people were coming to the food bank asking for water over food. In a first world American city, scale that to 30 or 60 days, and you begin to understand the leverage of a $20 water filter. A life straw or a soya squeeze removes 99.9% of waterborne bacteria and parasites. No batteries, no chemicals. You put it in water, you drink. You control something that cannot be improvised. The person across from you has been drinking questionable water for 3 days. You have the device that eliminates that risk instantly. That is leverage that scales with time. You don't even have to trade the filter itself. You establish a service. You say, bring your water container here. I'll filter 2 gallons for you. You give me 1 hour of labor or 1 meal. It becomes a recurring revenue stream in a non-monetary economy. Next is an item that touches 4 levels of the hierarchy simultaneously. When was the last time you thought about fire? I don't mean the survivalist YouTube version with the ferro rod. I mean real desperate fire to boil water, cook food, and survive a 28-degree night. Lighters get underestimated because they're too cheap to feel important. That cognitive bias is exactly why they will be gone in 48 hours. Fire touches infection, thirst, hunger, and warmth. In the Siege of Sarajevo, cigarettes functioned as currency because they represented controlled fire, a reliable unit of warmth and comfort. A single Biik lighter requires 0 training. The person you're trading with can use it in 3 seconds. That universal usability gives it barter power. A 50-pack of Biik lighters costs around $20. That is 50 individual units of Phase 1 barter currency, requiring 0 explanation. There is no more efficient barter investment per dollar. Now, I want to talk about the category that almost nobody in the prepper space will touch because it's embarrassing. And that collective blind spot is why these items will vanish instantly. In 2016, as Venezuela's economy collapsed, millions of people built a nationwide barter network on their smartphones. They weren't trading tactical gear. They were trading diapers for food, a kilo of pasta for a pack of diapers. One woman who didn't even have children stockpiled diapers purely as barter currency because she understood that very few things carry higher emotional urgency than a parent whose baby has been in the same diaper for 18 hours. Diapers, specifically sizes 2, 3, and 4. Feminine hygiene products, toilet paper, soap and hand sanitizer. You cannot improvise a diaper at scale in a 4th floor apartment. You cannot improvise feminine hygiene products safely. The inability to improvise is what drives the barter premium. When there is no substitute, the person who holds the supply has near total pricing power. They don't look cool on a thumbnail, but in a real crisis they are pure gold. The next item fulfills the bottom of the hierarchy: comfort and vice. In a POW camp during World War II, a British officer documented a fully functioning economy where the currency was cigarettes. They were divisible, universally desired, and consumable. The modern equivalent for a collapse scenario is high-proof alcohol, vodka, rum, or grain alcohol at 80 proof or higher. It has 3 functions. First, antiseptic utility for wound cleaning when isopropyl alcohol is gone. Second, psychological coping. The stress of watching your world fall apart creates enormous demand for relief. Third, vice currency for addiction management. Millions of people have alcohol use disorder. Active withdrawal in a collapse is a medical emergency. The more independent functions an item performs, the higher its barter premium. And a sealed bottle of distilled spirits lasts indefinitely. Everything we've covered so far gets used up. It's consumable. That works perfectly for phase 1. But around day 60, something shifts. People stop running and start thinking. The question stops being, how do I survive today? And starts being, how do I eat next month? That is the moment when seeds become the most powerful barter asset. In December 2001, Argentina's economy imploded. Barter clubs exploded. The highest premium items were food production goods. Seeds, seedlings, and the knowledge of how to grow them. Seeds are compound interest barter. A $3 packet of open-pollinated tomato seeds produces 20 pounds of fruit, and the seeds from that fruit can be planted indefinitely, for free. No other item does that. Make sure they are open-pollinated or heirloom, not hybrids. For $50, you hold a barter asset that feeds your family, compounds over time, and cannot be inflated by any government. At this same stage, another slow-motion crisis hits. What happens to your clothes after months of hard labor with no washing machine and no replacements? Clothing failure in harsh conditions is a survival problem. By month 3, the person who can repair a jacket or resole a boot becomes as valuable as the person with antibiotics. A micro-repair kit containing heavy-duty needles, waxed nylon thread, canvas patches, safety pins, and buttons costs pennies to build. Pre-package these into individual trade kits. Sewing supplies extend the shelf life of every other investment you've made. The people who can fix, not replace, will rule the barter table. And that brings us to the physical world around you. Around day 90, infrastructure quietly deteriorates. Roofs leak. Fences break. Hand tools are productive assets. They don't deplete. Every repair job you complete generates additional trade opportunities. 4 tools generate the highest leverage: a quality hatchet, a crosscut handsaw, a manual brace and bit drill, an adjustable wrench set. An item that requires pre-collapse industrial manufacturing, like a handsaw, becomes irreplaceable. Spend $100 at estate sales and antique markets. In phase 3, you're not just trading the tool. You're trading access to the tool plus the skill to use it, which leads to the ultimate barter asset. Stop asking what you own. Start asking what you can do. In every documented collapse economy, the people who accumulated the most resources were monopoly providers of critical services: food production, water purification, medical knowledge, mechanical repair, construction, security, teaching. A mechanic who can coax a dead generator back to life is worth more than anyone with a gold coin. Your current career might be valuable now, but if it requires the internet and supply chains to exist, its value evaporates in a collapse. Skills are the only asset class that inflates in value as the economy deteriorates. A basic wilderness medicine course costs $200. In a collapse, that knowledge trades for food every single day, indefinitely. We've reached the end. But everything we've talked about assumes one thing: that the person you're trading with won't just take your stuff. In a functioning economy, police and courts enforce deals. In a collapse, those systems are gone. The only thing that makes barter work is trust. In Bulgaria's collapse, barter flourished within villages where people had decades of established trust. Between strangers, it was slow and dangerous. The barter economy runs on existing relationships. If you spend the next 6 months building a perfect kit in isolation, trusting nobody, you've only solved half the problem. Community trust gives you intelligence. People tell you where the water is and who needs medicine. It gives you division of labor. It gives you protection. Your unprepared neighbor is a potential threat. The most effective thing you can do to neutralize that risk is to build the relationship now. Be the neighbor who checks in. A person embedded in a community is protected by that community's interest in their survival. Prepping is not hoarding. It's not a lone wolf bunker fantasy. It's building the conditions that give you options when everyone around you has none. Here is your challenge. Pick one item from phase 1 of this kit: the $4 ibuprofen, the lighters, the diapers, the water filter. Buy it before you close this video, not tomorrow. Right now, and then come back to the comments and type what you chose. Just one line, because when you write it down, you commit to it. I want to see how many people actually took action today. Start somewhere, start small, and start before you have to. The window to do this the easy way is still open. Don't wait for it to close.